Room 442 is brought to you by North Star Bets. That's a win. Well, it's finally happened, Sarah Pararia, after, I guess months of speculation about Christine Sinclair's playing future. She's officially announced, after a very cryptic message on Thursday night, that she is retiring from international football at the end of this year. So probably 4 more matches she'll be involved in. Mm-hmm. Now you've spoken about this. You are one of those girls that played football growing up that were inspired by Sinky.
Yeah, I mean, listen, when I was growing up, the Canadian men's team was nothing. Let's be honest. They weren't qualifying for big tournaments. They weren't doing well. They're not the team that they are now. And we all looked up to that women's team, and the leader of that team was Christine Sinclair. And right from the jump, she was such a bright star on that team, debuting in 2000 and immediately just slid herself into that starting lineup, and the rest is history, right? She was really a true star for football in Canada, as well as just an athlete to look up to, because the only person that I can think that is relatable to Christine Sinclair in terms of a Canadian athlete is Wayne Gretzky. And how, that was also before my time, right?
As far as transcending the sport itself, doing it both on the pitch, obviously, but also becoming bigger than the sport itself. Mm-hmm. Because I think if you go around Canada and you ask, the average person in the street, obviously everyone's heard of Wayne Gretzky. I get that. Mm-hmm. But even if you don't watch soccer, you probably have heard of Christine Sinclair.
Yeah.
Just because, listen, let's be honest, corporate Canada embraced her. She's in a lot of billboards, had a lot of products to endorse as well. But she became massive. And to me, it's that 2012 World Cup is where Canada woke up. Sorry, Olympics in 2012. The World Cup we'll get to never quite managed to dominate on that scene. But that 2012 tournament, what they did in essentially losing against the States, but that performance against the States, that hat-trick performance, one of the great sporting performances we've seen in this country, she just dominated that match. And for them to lose the way they did, it was so controversial that the rest of Canada kind of stood up and went, that's not fair. How can we lose to the States, our big rivals, like that? To me, it was almost more important, that moment, than winning the gold medal all those years later.
Yeah, I think she had this ability to create, what am I trying to say here? She was someone that everyone could kind of get behind. And that also helped grow the game itself, right? So everyone, especially in that match, was such a Christine Sinclair fan, but it also brought attention to women's football in Canada. She was able to just kind of be like the talisman, if you will, right? So such a superstar. And there were so many moments with her in that match, but where you're thinking, surely not, she's going to do it again. And then she just kept doing it. She really was so athletic, had this ability to knock them in from anywhere. And it was something that we weren't used to in the sport at all, and also in a lot of sports in Canada.
I remember the images of John Herdman on the sidelines just kind of shaking his head saying, what are we seeing here? What is she doing? Yeah. It's incredible. Albeit she was reluctant in accepting that role as that larger-than-life person for the sport in this country, because, she did what she did, and she became this household name, but she didn't really feel comfortable in that role.
Yeah.
Right? She wasn't happy being in the spotlight. Imagine if she was.
I think it would be a very similar situation to, let's say, Megan Rapinoe or Alex Morgan. I think these two are absolutely amazing footballers, and they really embrace being in the spotlight, all the interviews, all the commercial shoots and stuff, the glitz and the glam, if you will.
Also American.
Yeah.
Which helps.
Yeah, of course. But we've seen some, like Alexia Putellas in Spain maybe as well. But there's a few that have been able to kind of accept the role more. And I think that's what it would look like. But Christine Sinclair is still arguably on that level, if not better. And she didn't have to do any of that.
Well, she has, I think it's 90,000 Instagram followers, right? Which is nothing.
Yeah.
Right? It's nothing compared to, most celebrities. Alex Morgan's got, I think, almost 11 million because she pushed it, right? Whereas Sinky never wanted to do that.
Yeah.
But she did it regardless to a certain point on the pitch, more so than perhaps off the pitch. The book came out. She then went to, in front of the government panel and ripped into Canada soccer. She has those hills that she will die on, in fairness, right? She's brave. And now she's going to be one of the figureheads for Project 8 and the Women's Professional League, right, as in 2025 as well, alongside Dana Matheson. But yeah, it's strange. We've been expecting this for a while. There's going to be 4 games. There's 2 coming up in Montreal and Halifax, and then rumored to be 2 more in Vancouver and Victoria in November, which would be her real farewell. It's nice, I think, to have this opportunity to say thank you and goodbye, right? A lot of athletes do it this way, I guess, on their terms, they say.
Yeah.
I do wonder, though, how much of it is on her terms. She spoke to Bev Priestman, obviously, a lot during the World Cup. And Bev Priestman spoke just last week, and she was saying how, Sinky, her goal was to get Canada to the Olympics. She did that. Now we'll see.
Yeah.
Right? She's not going to be... Had she stuck around, she wouldn't be starting games anymore.
Yeah.
And I think for someone like her, who's been so dominant in her career, that is just too much. Is that fair to say?
I think so. I think we kind of started seeing that transition, though, in the World Cup, right? Like, Sinky before was starting every single match for Canada. There was no doubt in anyone's mind. Then we see the World Cup, and I think she started one of their 3 group stage matches. She came on a sub, don't get me wrong. She's still Christine Sinclair, but I think the team, Bev and herself, were slowly starting to understand that transition a few months ago during the World Cup. And it's kind of come to this now. But I think it was great that she was able to still go to a World Cup, because obviously that's such a great achievement. But I think there's no way, I think, Christine Sinclair wasn't very vocal with her teammates and her coach about this decision. And I think everyone knew. Yeah. And yeah, as you said, now she's going out on her own terms. She got the team there. That's what she wanted for the Olympics, like you mentioned. And now, she can have her 4 farewell matches in Canada, which I think it's gonna be really great to get everyone out there. And 4 matches is a lot. Like,
it's a lot,
I'm
right?
happy.
That is a farewell tour. Really enjoy it, celebrate it, right, and get out there in the media as well.
For sure.
There'll be requests. Get out there. It's also kind of saying farewell to that generation of players too. We saw Sophie Schmidt retire after the World Cup from international football. And
Stephanie
now
Labe last year.
Labe last year,
Diana
exactly.
Matheson
Right?
It's...
Now you got the real battle-hardened veterans are Kadisha Buchanan and Ashley Lawrence.
Yeah, Ashley Lawrence,
right?
For sure. She's
who
really that girl.
are still pretty
Quinn
young
as well.
overall. Quinn would be one.
Yeah.
But they're not really holdovers from that era. They came just after, right? So now that's why, if you're emotional about it, it's because that was some team, right? It was characters and brought such great moments for Canadian sports fans. 2012, 4 years later, another bronze medal, of course, the gold medal. So yeah, it's something today. It's a big moment, I think, in Canadian sports when you say farewell to this kind of athlete. And she's a soccer player. A women's soccer player, which just shows how big she really was, because no one's watching this stuff 20 years ago, unfortunately. It's very much in its infancy, women's soccer at that level, and it's growing and growing. You almost wish she was born 10, 15 years later.
Yeah.
Because she would be in Europe right now making a lot of money through endorsements, be a different world entirely for her.
But I think the argument there is that would these players be playing if Christine Sinclair had, let's say, gone to Europe? Like, I don't think
Good
that.
point.
I have no doubt that she didn't influence, the Jessie Flemings, the Jordan Heidemas, because that's who we grew up watching. And that may be a reason why these girls are now playing for the national team, saying, I want to play here because of Christine Sinclair. Like, we can have those theoretical, thoughts where we're thinking, what if, but I truly think her staying in North America, playing for Canada, everything that she's done inspired so many of her, teammates and where they are now. So I don't know. It would be interesting to see what would have happened if she did go to Europe, but I mean, she put Canada on the map, because let me really emphasize again that the men's team was non-existent. They had the World Cup they made in the 80s and then did nothing until, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. They kind of have this resurgence, which is great. But look at the women's team. They played against Jamaica for that Olympic qualifier at BMO Field. That was 2 weeks ago now. BMO sold it out. The men's team still can't do that. That's the Sinclair effect, in my opinion. The reason why all these people are fans of that team is because of Sinky, because she grew the fandom for Canadian women's soccer.
I'll say this. I mean, this isn't the case globally, but within Canada, she's more famous than Alphonso Davies.
Yeah, 100%.
Right, but not. I don't think globally.
No, I don't think globally.
Women's soccer sadly isn't at that point.
Yeah. Also, I would maybe say maybe not anymore with Alphonso Davies, and the only reason why is because he's a Bayern Munich player.
Well, yeah, precisely. He's won Champions League.
Yeah, it's not a Canadian thing. No one really recognizes Alphonso Davies for being Canadian anymore. They recognize him because he plays for Bayern Munich, right? So
I think
that's
often when you meet people about top football and they go, oh, what? Oh, he's Canadian?
Yeah.
Right? Really?
Yeah.
The left back for Bayern Munich.
Yeah.
People still aren't quite sure about that. That shows where we kind of figure in the world scene, which isn't very high. It seems today shows a lot about retirement because Michale Bradley announced his retirement as well this week. And this weekend against Orlando in Toronto, he'll be saying farewell to the TFC faithful in a match where, man, I wrote about it. The TFC faithful want to just send this team off into oblivion to never be spoken about again after the season it's been. I really hope they give Michale Bradley the farewell he deserves. Because speaking of icons, within Toronto soccer, he's an icon. He's the most important figure in TFC's relatively short history. He changed everything when he arrived. The professionalism.
I think Sebastian Giovinco would have something to say about that.
No, but listen, Bradley was there a lot longer than Giovinco.
Yeah, but
and taking nothing away from Seba.
But you are telling me that the biggest TFC athlete is Michale Bradley.
100%.
It's Sebastian Giovinco.
No, it's not.
No, okay, we're gonna pull this because I refuse to believe that it's not Giovinco.
I think you'll be really surprised by that. Yeah. He is revered,
Giovinco
I think, in that fan base.
one of the best players in MLS.
I'm not, again, different players. I'm not saying he wasn't important. He was extremely important. He was the luxury player. Bradley brought the identity and the muscle to that team. And that club, right? A club that was a laughing stock. It was a laughing stock. And then in came Bradley in that year. And then Giovinco soon followed, admittedly, as did Josie Altidore. And it all kind of worked well together. But he brought a swagger to that club that had never been there. And that's why I think he's revered. And listen, we saw this year going to centre half. He's lost a step or two. It was time for him to retire probably, although he could have got a job somewhere, I'm sure, in MLS in some capacity. But I think he'll be celebrated this weekend. And like I said, I really hope he is because it would be a great chance for the fans to at least have one nice experience this season after what's been the worst season in club history.
Yeah, I feel a bit bad for Bradley because he announced his retirement, on Tuesday or Wednesday, I believe. And now Christine Sinclair, no offense,
but there was no Instagram post with boots just hanging from a goalpost, right?
No, I know. It's just timing is such a funny thing because, everyone is focusing on Christine Sinclair. But regarding tomorrow's match at BMO Saturday, I hope as well that people come out. I'm a bit worried that BMO has not been, obviously, with the way TFC has been playing. I'm curious to see what the turn-up is like because of how poor they've been this season. Hopefully for Bradley's sake, they will, because I completely agree. He has been such a prolific player for TFC, also for so long now. He is one of the most memorable TFC players ever. So I do hope for his sake that they show up. I'm curious to see what the turnout will be.
The fan groups there will be there in mass, that to do it. But I do wonder about the rest of the stadium. And there's nothing to watch. It's been a disaster. You've seen John Herdman on the sidelines for the first time as well. He's been just observing up until now. There's that. And maybe it's the last time you're going to see Lorenzo Insigne and
trying to
Federico
convince people to go to a TFC game. This is grim.
There's a new coach on the sidelines.
Yeah.
It's been that bad though, right?
Yeah, it's been bad. But hopefully he goes out. Hopefully it's a good game for them as well. Orlando is not an easy team, so we'll see what happens. But
there's no easy team with TFC.
I guess so. But Orlando is also, they're a decent side.
Yeah, they are. And listen,
they're
if
not.
TFC are 1 point off their worst ever season, I think most fans kind of want them to not reach that. They want them to be the worst ever.
Yeah.
Just to say, because there's so much toxicity around this club as well, and you know why. That they want this. Let's make this really bad. There's no point in being just bad. Let's be really bad, and then we'll laugh about it in years to come.
Yeah.
How awful it was.
Yeah.
God, I tell you, I've got so many TFC fans as friends, and they're just
They're on
the brink. I know they're on the brink. But yeah, go there tomorrow and celebrate Michale Bradley because he's one of the good guys. He never quit. He never turned on a coach. Of course, the coach was his dad, so he wouldn't do that. But he would never do that. He's a professional, and I think a lot of those players could learn a lot from Michale Bradley. And you do wonder about that room too, right? When essentially his dad was forced out by certain factions in that club, as from the playing staff. it must have been so awkward. It's while he was injured too, right? He was out
Yeah.
a lot this year. It must have been so awkward in that room. Because he's not the kind of guy to sit in the corner and wilt. He's a strong guy, Michale Bradley, big personality. You speak to him, he seems very quiet. He's very thoughtful. But, you wouldn't want to mess with him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that must have been years from now, we'll find out the inside story about what happened this year at TFC.
Someone will write a book.
Yeah, I think it's pretty book worthy.
Oh, I believe
is.
so as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of retirements, let's hope it doesn't come to this. But this week earlier, of course, Neymar blew his ACL, his meniscus as well, playing for Brazil. It looks so innocuous. And he's out now, for months. Copa's next year. He's 31. He's not old, but a guy that's broken both ankles, right?
Both
he's broken
ankles,
his spine.
his back. Yeah,
He's now done his knee.
His ribs.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of injuries. This guy's going to be a mess when he's my age.
Oh, yeah.
So, I know, it's Albert Vertanian laughing in the background. They think it's Charmin, you're a mess now. And you didn't even play the game, for Christ's sakes. What's your excuse? I know, Albert. I'm a sack of shit. But back to Neymar.
Oh my great
back to
transition.
Neymar. I mean, listen, this guy's polarizing. I don't have too much sympathy for his Saudi Arabian club who spent all that money.
Oh, 90 million euros.
But I do feel for him. He could be a big time Charlie.
Yeah,
you know that.
for
But
sure.
he was also a wonderful footballer. I think it's probably at that level of football is probably done now.
Neymar, I think, might be one of the worst football stories I can think of. And when I think about him, it genuinely makes me sad because when this young kid came from Santos to Barcelona, he looked like his technique is unmatched. It's incredible. He was really like that Brazilian player, kind of like that, reincarnated of Ronaldinho, like, Pele back in the day. Like he had that
Jogo Bonito.
Yeah, that Jogo Bonito, that samba to him. Like for the first time in a while since that 2002 team, we saw a player of that stature potentially, right? And then, he gets injured. He then goes to PSG. He just seems to be making all these moves that don't really seem to be correlating with what would be good for his career, and then the injuries. And to me, it is such a loss for the world of football because I truly think Neymar could have been, he was the next guy after Messi and Ronaldo.
But you know what though, Sarah? You're right. I agree with you. He could have been, but he only has himself to blame. He made these choices. He went to PSG when he shouldn't have done that because he wanted to be the man.
He wanted to chase the bag.
Right? Exactly, right? And he made those, never the most professional of footballers, enjoyed himself, and who can blame him, right? But that he made those choices. If he lived a life like Ronaldo, for example, or, a Harry Kane, that kind of determined professionalism, and you took care of yourself and your body, he could have reached those heights. He could have been seen as one of the all-time great Brazilians, who some people think he still is, by the way.
Yeah.
I think he fell short.
I know what you're saying with his decision making, and that I completely agree. Like it was so obvious at one point when he went to PSG that it was like, this is about the money for you. And like at some point though as well, I kind of have to say this is a poor kid coming from Brazil that his family had nothing. Like, can I blame them? I don't know. But when it comes to the football, I do think there were situations where he got unlucky. Like that match he was playing for Brazil against Colombia and he got the knee in the back. Like that was just tragic. That was such a bad injury. And I think the thing is, he fell short for Brazil, and that's where it really makes me upset. His decisions in Europe, yeah, okay, of course, foolish. And now he's in Saudi Arabia. Don't even get me started. But he's really that guy for Brazil, and he has been for a while. And the only thing they've accomplished is a Copa America, which I don't like. Yeah, you can say Neymar was absolutely influential in that, but the Brazilian team is also really good. But we expected so much. For example, like let's say this World Cup. We all thought Brazil were going to go.
Fallen short,
yeah, and the thing is, they keep
again.
building a team around this guy. And now it's going to be really interesting to see what Fernando Diniz does because they don't have that guy. Will there be a new star? I don't know, but I can't tell. Like, I just feel so bad because Brazil had so many moments. Neymar had so many moments, but he either was injured. A lot of the time he was injured, let's be honest.
He was.
And that, I have to say, that isn't based on him making a bad decision. That is just unlucky. But maybe, is he training hard enough? His athleticism comes into question because you do see players a lot of the time when they back-to-back injuries, you're like,
There's something going on there, right?
It does.
Now, listen, he is also a target. You see players go hard because they know that he's perceived as being a little bit lightweight, maybe.
And he'll roll on the ground.
Soft.
He will.
He will, precisely, right? He's got the reputation there.
Yeah.
More than most.
But he takes hits. He really does.
And that's what most top players do, right? And we shouldn't forget that. We talk about the Messis of the world and the Ronaldos and the whoever it's going to be. They get butchered. Not like they once did. Back in the 70s and 80s, they were literally butchered on the field. Look at Maradona. Some of the Maradona tapes from Napoli. He was just a victim out there. Guys are going to try and break his leg.
Yeah, like that one video, I think he was actually at Barcelona where they just started kicking each other. Like it was just nuts. Yeah.
Right. These stars face this, right? But not all the guys falter like he did. But let's hope he recovers. He's 31. He doesn't necessarily need to be done just yet, and he's playing in Saudi Arabia. So it's not as if it's a very high level of football. He could come back in 7-8 months, but will it be in time for Copa America? You'd like to think so, but I have my
I don't
doubts.
think he will be ready. I'll be honest with you. That is 8 months away. That is a lot of rehabilitation he's going to need to go to. If I'm Brazil, I am planning that he's not going to be there. But the thing is, the World Cup is what? 2026. So Neymar could play in that World Cup and be what? 33, 34? 34? I think. Yeah.
It's doable.
That's like
we saw two guys do it this past tournament.
The thing is, if anything, exactly, he could be a bench, the substitute player.
Can you see him doing that? Can you see him being that guy? Like we're talking about Christian Sinclair, not being happy in that role.
If it means that he'll win a World Cup with Brazil, I think he'll ride that bench. I don't think he'll be happy about it, but like that could go down as an accolade he has.
You said it off camera though. You said maybe Brazil's better off without him at this point as well.
Yeah, I'm curious to see now because they have built this team around this guy for the last 10 years basically. So there are certain other players that I'm curious to see, okay, how are they going to do now without Neymar? It's not all going to be going through this one player. You have Vinicius Jr., for goodness sakes, Rodrigo, you have Lucas Paquetá, you have Rafinha. Like Brazil, it's like a conveyor belt. They just put the player so I wouldn't be surprised if, they do have a new star that shines for the team. We know the talent is there, but on the international level, we haven't really seen a star kind of emerge since Neymar. So maybe it could be time. I'd love to see it.
That kid could be playing right now at Santos.
Yeah, that's also true. They could be, and then
there's
2
always
years,
something that pops up, right? Then Barca pay a crazy amount of money for him. In fact, who was it last summer paid some insane amount of money for a 15-year-old kid? Brazilian, I forget his name there.
It's Real Madrid, and he's going there in 2 years, and they signed the contract. What's his name?
I forget now. Some weird name.
Something with an E, Emerson. I think it's something like that.
We'll soon know.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Anyway, hopefully he recovers. But so a bit of an emotional week for football fans with Christian Sinclair, Michale Bradley for TFC fans, and now Neymar. But hey, listen, the Prem is back this weekend.
The Prem is back!
Which means 442picks.ca.
Yes, it does.
You will continue your journey to the top, Sarah. The gap was closed somewhat, but I'm having faith that you'll refund your form this weekend. It's free to sign up for 442picks.ca. Loads of Muller still available to win weekly and monthly. Room 442 is brought to you by North Star Bets. That's a win.